Hi screen printers, this is Colin from Ryonet. Today we're going to talk about the next step after the reclaim process, efficiently drying a screen and trying to keep that screen dust and lint free. What we want to do is we want to find a way to drain effectively any water that's left over on the screen. There's a couple of ways to do that. One of them is putting them into a rack and having a fan behind it, blowing air directly on it. We don't want to let the screens sit flat because that can allow the water to puddle. And if you happen to have any hard water or soft water, that can cause those minerals to collect there, and that can create an issue for you with adhesion of the emulsion later on in the process. So ideally, we want to have it at a little bit of a tip. All you need to do is put some 2x2s, a stack of cleanup cards, whatever you have underneath the rack to tip it forward, have a fan behind it. I recommend getting a HVAC filter to put behind the fan to keep dust from moving, from the air movement through all of that to keep your screens clean. Another way to clean your screens is to actually stack them like this in a rack. Basically, you can take a rack or a system like this, turn it on its side so that these screens sit horizontally instead of vertically, and have a fan on top with a filter on it that blows the air down. We end up having to create a little bit of a gap between the screens and the floor so that you can get air movement down and underneath it. But it's a way to quickly evaporate water off your screens. And in that process, you can typically have screens dry in 5 to 10 minutes. Usually the time it takes to do a set of 6 screens in your reclaim from start to finish, doing the reclaim process, degrease, haze remover. Usually by that time, you can have screens dry if you have a high volume of air movement. The other thing that we want to do, if you can, is you want to have a dehumidifier in that space to make sure that you're moving warm, dry air. Not always possible in a lot of shops, I get that, but having a dehumidifier in your space is really important, especially if your space is dual purpose. You will end up using that dehumidifier to not only dry your wet screens, but also, of course, to dry your emulsion. That's pretty much it for the overview of kitting, a very dry space. I do want to show there's no real wrong way to go about drying a screen. It's all about what works best for you in your space, in your environment. And as we know from garage shop, home-based printer, maybe not even having a garage, you're working in a second room, all the way up through you're just opening up your first brick and mortar business. You make what you can. You deal with the space that you have. So within that space, there's no wrong way to do it. As long as you are able to get that water to not puddle on your screen and to get that water off of it and evaporated, filter the air that's moving on it, and have a dehumidifier in there, because you're always going to want a dehumidifier. Thanks for listening, screen printers. We're going to follow this up with how to properly coat and dry a screen. Again, dehumidifiers and fans are our friends. If you have any questions, please ask. We'll talk about it later. Thank you much.